Hello, and welcome if you are new here. So am I. My name's Malin, like Melinda, but no duh. And today I wanted to talk about two characters in the show of Helluva Boss and why I think specifically they should have been one. Those two characters being Stella, which is Stolas' husband, and her brother Andreolphus. So let's go ahead and just get into it. I'm going to be talking about this video in two different parts. The first part being why I think it's not working having the two characters as separate beings, and how I think the story would have been better served had the two been merged. Mostly with theories of how the show could have gone and how I think it would have improved the overall writing and character development between the two. First, when it comes to both Stella and Andreolphus, being the side characters that they are drastically underdeveloped. Andreolphus has more of an excuse because he is a side character, very much on the periphery of the show and is less utilized, but Stella being around as often as she is and her underdevelopedness, her flatness, her one-noteness is honestly a disservice to her character and honestly to the plot moving forward. The only thing that we know about Stella is that she is from some kind of extended branch, relation, political or otherwise, to the Goetia family. I don't know what her last name was before she got married to Stolas. If that's going to be explored in later seasons, that remains to be said. But as of right now, what I know is next to nothing about Stella. We know that she was in an arranged marriage as much as Stolas was in the arranged marriage with her. We also know that she hates Stolas. That's about it. And I think that that's incredibly problematic. She's around for so much of the show. She is such a usable antagonistic force for the show, and she's just not used. And I'm just like, why not? Why not? There's so much there, but it's in Andreolphus. And if you look on... There's a light on me. But moving on, if you look at Stella's fandom wiki page, there's actually a quote from VisiPop herself notating that she is aware of Stella's one-noteness and that she's actually planning on exploring more of Stella's character and her backstory in later seasons. And so I, sitting here as a reader, a viewer, just looking into this as an analyst, I'm wondering, why not sooner? Why hasn't this been explored before, especially considering what happens in Season 2, Episode 11 of Mastermind and the plan that Stella and her brother end up hatching in order to get rid of Stolas, get him out of the house, get his assets, daughter moving forward with all of that there. Why hasn't Stella been developed yet? The light moved again. Now, from a writing perspective, despite the fact that the author has even acknowledged that the character itself is one note, it's above all else boring. Stella is a boring character. I don't care for when she comes on screen. Honestly, the only redeeming quality that I have when I watch and listen to her is I love her character design and her voice actress, that deep gravel, wow, like when she gets all pissy, which is like all the time. I love how Stella talks. Everything else about her bores the absolute snot out of me because there's nothing there, because the writers have not provided something to be there. The most compelling moment that Stella has in the show that I can recall up to this point is during Mastermind when her daughter Octavia notices what's going on the TV and sees what's about to happen to her dad. And Octavia comes into Stella's chest and she comforts her daughter. And I'm pretty sure for the first time the characters are seen on screen together, interacting with each other. This whole time it's been Octavia and her daddy issues with Stolas, but we haven't heard diddly squat about Stella and Octavia. This is really the first time they're seen interacting, and so I'm sitting here as the viewer with all kinds of questions. Is this genuine? I didn't know that Stella had it in her to fake this kind of behavior. Even like with everything going on, I'm like, I'm impressed that she was, emotionally intelligent enough to manipulate her daughter in the way that she did. I didn't know that Stella had it in her because that has not been developed up until this point. So as it stands, Stella is adding nothing to the plot on her own, because what happens in Mastermind only happens because of something that her brother tells her, which is, you didn't know that these two were breaking the law, doing the things that they were doing? Well, we can use this. Why did it have to be him and not Stella? Now, Andreophis has, again, as I've said, he has the excuse of being underdeveloped because he is quite the periphery character, very much side character, has an excuse to be underdeveloped. But because of the actions he takes in season 2, episode 11, which have huge repercussions on two of the main characters of the show and their lives moving forward, why didn't that come from Stella? So let's go ahead and just move straight into the next part of the video in terms of how I think it would have been better served story-wise had the two been meshed into one character, being Stella, having Stella as the one driving that plot forward for seasons to come. First, before we do that, let's consider her marriage to Stolas, right? We know that it was arranged. We know that it was arranged as early as their own childhood. They didn't even have a chance to go through puberty before they were assigned the person that they were going to live with and produce heirs with for eternity. That's a long time. I mean, a lifetime is already hard enough in the human realm. I can't imagine eternity with someone that you didn't choose. That sucks. So in terms of the arranged marriage, we see that Stella is as unhappy, if not as pissed as Stolas going into it. The one part that we're shown about her is Payman showing Stolas a picture of her, and he goes, "This is going to be your wife," and we see her choking out one of her poor dogs, just absolutely losing her shit. And we don't know when that picture was taken. It could have been taken the moment that she found out that she was going to marry Stolas, and that was her natural reaction to finding out she was going to be married, or that could have just been a picture that they took while she was doing her thing, because Stella is always doing her thing, which is being angry and volatile. Now, that is not a problem in and of itself. Being angry and volatile, fine. If that's your main emotional output, totally fine. I think that's that's a great place to start moving forward. And it makes sense that she would be so angry being forced into an arranged marriage. But we don't know why she's this angry going into the marriage, because in later flashbacks that we see in season 2, we see that she has pretty much been a bully to Stolas the entire marriage. Was this right off the bat? Was she mean to him the second that they said their vows? Or was this developed over time? Did she go into the marriage having somebody else that she was hoping to fall in love with? I know that she was a kid, but what if she had a schoolgirl crush on a classmate, boy, girl, or otherwise, and now she can't marry them because she has to marry Stolas? What if she went into the marriage similarly to how Cersei Lannister went into her marriage with Robert Baratheon? That was a political alliance. Point blank, period. She didn't know this man. He was a complete stranger to her. But she tells Ned that she gave it a chance. She tried. She looked at him, his handsome black beard, dressed up in his clothes. He was the king of the Seven Kingdoms. She's like, you know what? I may not know this man, but I am going to try. And he couldn't even do that for her. He couldn't even do the bare minimum of effort. And he was so hooked and in love and enamored with his dead lover that he couldn't even see the living person in front of him, which then spurred the anger and the hatred and the vitriol in that marriage, which led her to killing him in season 1. Did Stella go into the marriage with similar aspect? Like, you know what? I don't know this man, but I've been assigned to him. I'm going to do my role. I will have a kid with him. I will do right by this. And she did. She had the kid. She had Octavia. She did the thing. She carried a whole baby. And Stolas bucks off and cheats on her and embarrasses her publicly by having an affair with an imp, right? And so we know Stolas' side of the story. We know that sympathetic end there, but we know fuck all about Stella's backstory, and she is as equal of a victim as Stolas is, and her backstory is as important as it, because she's such an antagonistic person in his life. And had she been merged with Andreophis, the plot moving forward in Mastermind would have made perfect sense. Yes, I'm going to frame your lover. I'm going to hurt you personally by framing your lover. And she's not all that smart, so the plot having holes in it also makes sense, because why frame the lover, or why frame the lover and not Stolas himself, because it's not guaranteed that both would get hurt, or that Stolas would have seen the television program, etc., etc. But that could also make sense in Stella's characterization, because she's not the smartest tool in the box, but she's angry and at the very least can hatch a plan on her own. She can do that. But the writers don't give her that chance. And that's so disappointing, because I think from an antagonistic and writing perspective, I think that would have been a really strong choice, having Stella orchestrate what happened in Mastermind by also getting Octavia on her side, manipulating her daughter into further hating her dad, playing on the insecurities that Via already has surrounding their relationship, further isolating Stolas and using all of that. Also, if you think about merging Andreophis and Stella together, Andreophis has powers, right? He has ice powers. And I talked about in a previous video how Gluttony, she has honey-related powers that has to do with abundance and the symbolism within the Bible. So does ice. Ice also relates to the Bible. Got really excited there. So ice in the Bible really symbolizes the outright dominating power of God himself, just this overall I am the most powerful force, and that's kind of like what ice is there. And it also symbolizes justice and renewal, two things that are happening in the last 2 episodes of Helluva Boss. Stolas receiving justice, having his powers stripped away from him for the next 100 years, and the possibility of renewal because of that transformation. He has the next 100 years to rediscover himself, who he is, find out what he is outside of the Goetia family and outside of his powers and all of these responsibilities and duties and all that kind of stuff. So had Stella been given those powers, it would have made even more sense that she is the one giving him justice, performing it on him, and allowing him to have that renewal, because that's something that she would not want. She doesn't want him to grow and improve from this, but he's going to, in theory, right? And so that would have added extra layers to her character of she's trying to fuck him over, but she's actually giving him this new chance. And that all that has to do, it's just relating back to her powers and the symbolism that it has with the Bible. Because, again, everything comes down to choices and intent. Why the authors are choosing to do this, why are they choosing to do this, and why is it working? That is pretty much all that I had to say. I'm pretty sure there are a couple other videos talking about Stella and Andreophis that go into more depth about their characterization and how the two could have been better served as one character, how they're not quite working. But those are really just my preliminary thoughts on everything that's going on. I just wanted to talk about the two, how they related, how they're not quite working, how they could have been better served, and especially because even though there are points of weak writing within Helluva Boss where we can find problems and nitpick and go, that's not working, I still want to acknowledge the effort that's being put into the show and the creativity that's going into it as well. It's clearly something that is well loved by the creators and is enjoyable to make based on just the effort that they're putting into it and what's coming out of it. I'm just being nitpicky as from an analysis standpoint, from a creative standpoint, and just something that I wanted to talk about. If you've listened to me yet this far, thank you. If you're interested in watching, I have a couple of other Helluva Boss videos, one on Gluttony and another one on Blitz and Fizz. I've also done a couple of book reviews and why I think you should read this book. So until next time, bye!